What are the best CGI resources and tutorials of 2021? Let's go ahead and talk about it. What is going on, Pro EDU community? It's Dustin Volkema, CGI lead here at Pro EDU, and today we're talking about the best CGI resources and tutorials of 2021. Now, this is quite the list, so as we start to make our way through where I get materials, 3D models, textures, HDRIs, as well as the preferred places that I go for training, I've also included different software into the mix. So we'll talk about different places you can go for Cinema 4D, Blender, 3ds Max, Maya, and ZBrush, and where you can find good training for that right here on YouTube, as well as various other platforms. Now, there are timestamps down in the description that will help you kind of skip around parts of this video if you're looking for something specific. And we've also included a blog link down in the description as well that's going to take you to a place where all of these links are handy and you can start to make your way through. Now, given the world of 3D CGI is a large world, so there's plenty of other software and things that we're not covering here, like plugins. We'll save that for another video. But as you guys start to watch the video and you're like, hey, I know of a cool link for some great training or different resources, go ahead and leave those down in the comments so that as other people start to watch this video, we kind of have a cool community pool of knowledge that's right there ready for them. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead, share my screen, and start making our way through these various topics. One of my favorite places to go for environment assets is Quixel Megascans. They have a really nice library of 3D scans as well as multiple other objects that we'll talk about a little bit later. But as far as the way of models, they do a really good job of curating the quality of their models. And on top of that, they also have the Quixel Bridge plugin that will directly import the 3D models that you're going to be using into your scene and also convert the materials to your render engine of choice. So this is a really good platform to use. They have thousands of different assets here that you can choose from, and it's one of my favorite places to go for environments. Now, when it comes to civilization and creating various worlds, Kitbash 3D is one of those places for me that I enjoy going to most. Now, if you're just a hobbyist, they are a little bit pricey, but the quality speaks for itself. So they have multiple different kits here to choose from. Neo Tokyo 2, let's go ahead and click into here. You guys can go through and actually browse what they have to offer by just clicking through and seeing the way that all of these different elements are going to look. Now, the cool thing about working with Kitbash is that you can also go through here, choose your 3D software of choice, and your render engine of choice here, and it gives you a very good ready to go format for building worlds. Now, ArtStation, the marketplace here, is one of my favorite places to go, not just because they have a lot of quality things to choose from. I really like to kind of support the community and go through the process of shopping here when I'm looking for various assets. I find myself a lot of times buying things like these mech parts and various Kitbash assets because it just makes the job of Greeble creation quite a bit easier. Now, moving along to Model Haven, if I'm building environments for portrait photography composites, this is one of the places that I'll go to look and see if they have anything that will work to prop the scenes out that I'm using. Now, they are free, so it's definitely a good place to check out that way if you're on a tight budget by chance. Taking a look at CG Trader, we'll go back to their homepage here. CG Trader has a really good library of different models. We can go ahead here and click into the 3D models so we can see all of the different categories that they have here. And though it is primarily a paid platform, they do have free assets as well. So definitely a good place worth checking out. On the side of TurboSquid, TurboSquid is very much the same as CG Trader. You're going to have a large list of different model formats that you can use, entirely free range that you can choose from, as well as very high quality, pricey 3D models. So quite the variety here. definitely a good place. I use this quite often for commercial work, but definitely a good resource to know about. GrabCAD is one of those that I didn't really know about too much in the beginning when I was just starting out. And they have a really nice library of different CAD objects. So a lot of times these are going to be built by engineers, and they're going to come in probably a step or an STL file. Now let's go ahead and check out 3D Export, both a paid and a free platform. We can go through and click through a couple pages. And these are going to be in kind of the mid to lower quality range for some assets, and then you have some assets that are definitely higher in quality, and the price in those are going to jump up quite a bit. Let's go ahead and move on to free3d.com. This is another decent resource that's going to allow you to go through, very similar to the other ones here. We have your free, you have your paid. The quality of the models are definitely worth checking out as you go through. Let's go down to CG Axis. So as I'm working on different commercial environments, this is actually one of those places that I'll go quite often. And that's because they have a very wide range of assets to choose from. So if I'm working on something like, say, food rendering, we can go through and get these various scans. And they also have quite a bit if you're into architectural visualization. Now let's move on to textures and materials. Now, the first one up here is Quixel Megascans again. They have a very nice library of different materials. And I like using these again because they do have Quixel Bridge. That'll import these materials and set them up as a good base for whatever render engine you're choosing to use. Now, it's not just the PBR scans that they have here. You can also go through and check out various decals that they offer, as well as imperfections and various grunge maps that you guys can use to really break up the surfaces of your model. Let's go ahead and move into Grayscale Gorilla. So as far as materials are concerned, Grayscale Gorilla is one of my favorite places to go. I've got quite a few of their different assets. Now this is primarily for Cinema 4D, but it's going to give you a lot of different options. So certain things like their tech products material collection and their modern surface material collection, a lot of great variation between these. Now, if you're happening to use Cinema 4D and we'll say Octane or Redshift, these materials are going to come in handy quite often if you're doing things like architectural visualization, product rendering. You're going to have a lot to work from, and their materials are such high quality right from the gate. So there's usually very little to no tweaking needed when you get here. Now, moving on to CCO Textures. CCO Textures is really nice because they're a free platform. And so all of the different materials here, you can go ahead and download them, use them for education or commercial. Either way, really a great way to go through and find 3D materials that you're wanting to use. Now, they all do come in a PBR format, and you can download them in their various resolutions that you have here. So they have everything set up in JPEG, PNG format, and you can go through and see all of their nice material previews, which is quite standard across most of these different platforms. Now, moving on to CG Bookcase. This is one of my favorite places to go if I'm doing interior rendering and visualization. They have a lot of nice surfaces that you can choose from. A lot of things from the tiles to fabrics, and you can also go into various other categories here, which are going to give you different options as you start to make your way through this platform. Next up, for you Blender guys, Polygon is a really nice place to go for not just textures. We'll talk about textures here, but they also have 3D models and HDRIs, brushes that you can choose from. Now, this is primarily a paid platform that works on a point system. So if you're looking for any of these type of assets, this is definitely somewhere that I'll go and check out. Now, moving along to texturehaven.com. This is not really the highest quality that I've seen from PBR materials, but they definitely work good in certain scenarios. So it's definitely worth knowing about, using for your environments. Let's go ahead and move into the Pixel Lab. So Pixel Lab for me is one of these places that I like to go and just kind of browse their products and see what they have from time to time. So for me, I'm working in Cinema 4D and Octane, sometimes Redshift. And so you can go through and find various materials, obviously the VDB, fires and smoke, explosions, things like that. They have various roughness maps that you can go through and purchase, and they give you quite a bit of quality content here. Now, it all does come with a price, but that is often to be expected when you're getting such quality materials. Now, let's go ahead and talk about textures.com. So textures.com is a really nice place that not only gives you good materials, they also have these 3D scans here, and they also have textures that you can go through and use in your material or texture creation process. One of my favorite places to go if I'm talking creative stuff is tfmstyle.com by the French Monkey. There is a lot here. If you head into the products, let's just go to the store here. And there's quite a bit here in the way of various maps and whatnot that you can get. So as you start to look here, you can see that he has suites available. You can go through various bundles. A lot of these are going to be very nice for adding detail and really a creative spin on a lot of your projects. So there's definitely Cinema 4D tools. I haven't personally purchased these at the time of this video yet, but I'm definitely thinking about it. This is all powered by Gumroad, so go ahead and check this out. It's really a good place to go and find various textures and even models that you're looking for your projects. So next up on the list of textures here, we have RD Textures, so RealDisplacementTextures.com. These guys are very high quality with the way that their scans work, and I'm quite impressed by it. Now, they are a bit pricey if you're working as a hobbyist again, but this is definitely worth the investment when you need these high quality displacement maps and materials for your scenes. All right, so 3dtextures.me is going to be a good place that you can go and find multiple different types of materials and textures. It's a little bit more random here. They do have various categories that you can choose from, but this is one that I often use just to go through and find something that's a little bit creative here. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the HDRIs. Starting off here, HDRIhaven.com, really good base of 452 HDRIs that you can use for your scenes. I really like the way that their HDRIs work. They're a really good quality. These guys are free, so it's definitely a good idea if you want to support them to go ahead and become a patron of theirs as well. Now, moving on to Grayscale Gorilla. So we talked about them. We'll probably talk about them again a bit later on, but this time is all specifically about making and lighting your environments easier. So they have plenty of HDRI collections, as well as the HDRI Link plugin for Cinema 4D that makes switching your HDRIs on the fly super easy. So I use this all the time. Literally in the click of a mouse, I can go ahead and start to swap out lighting conditions, and it works very well for that. So grayscalegorilla.com, not getting paid by these guys, but you'll see them probably at least once or twice more. They have a lot of good stuff on their site. And they do offer a Grayscale Gorilla Plus that is just a monthly subscription that includes all of their plugins, all of their resources at a very affordable price. So they're definitely worth checking out. Moving on to ihdri.com. Again, this is a really nice place to go through and find quality HDRIs. So they have a good list to choose from. If you want to support the artists here, go ahead, become a patron. Moving on to HDRI Hub. This is a really nice place that you can go to not only find HDRIs, but you can also find backplates here that are going to work with these HDRIs very well. HDRI Skies, they're another beautiful platform. I really like the quality of the HDRIs that come out of this studio. it's one of those for me that if I'm looking for an environment that has a lot of color and say I'm not finding what I need at Grayscale Gorilla, I may go through and come to this platform here and see if they have anything that works. Now they do have multiple resolutions. So you can see this one here is 2048 by 1024 that go all the way up to 20K by 10K HDRI maps. Now let's go ahead and move on to HDR maps. HDR Maps is another good place. They have 114 or so HDRI maps that you can choose from. It is definitely a good place if you're looking for more quality HDRIs. Moving along to training and tutorials. Now, we're going to go through just kind of a general list here first before we start to break down more specific software. But Udemy, starting off, has a really good base of knowledge for multiple different softwares. So it's really fitting for me in a bit more of the general area because we can see here if you're looking into topics, they have multiple videos and courses that cover a wide range of industry tools. Now we can move on to Skillshare. Skillshare is very much the same way where they have a whole lot in this platform that you can start to look up across various different softwares. So Udemy, Skillshare, Domestika is a great platform that has really good and quality tutorials, very decently priced, and you can start to cover a very wide range of topics. Now, a lot of their tutorials are in Spanish, but do come with English subtitles, and they're also starting to put a lot more English tutorials out, but this is actually one of those places that I go if I'm looking for quality tutorials. So for me personally, I don't necessarily care whether it's in Spanish or in English. It still is easy enough to follow along and to really grasp anything that you need from this platform. So ArtStation's really good. We talked about them a bit earlier, but as you start to get into the training side of things, you can also go through and find a bunch of tutorials. So if we go ahead, click on the tutorials here in the search, we can start to find a lot of the different tutorials and training that are going to be coming across here. Moving ahead into the next general space here is LinkedIn Learning. You can get a subscription to them. Now, just a fun side note about LinkedIn Learning. I just got access to LinkedIn Learning through using my library card on my library's portal. So definitely worth looking into if you don't want to pay their monthly subscription fee and you just want to access the wealth of knowledge that they offer across various topics. Go ahead and check that out and see if you actually have that option to use a library card and then logging in through your library's platform. All right, so let's go ahead and start breaking down the software specific training between YouTube and possibly other platforms. Now we're going to start with Cinema 4D here. This is my preferred software of choice. Now, the first channel here is Maxon VFX. Definitely a good range of knowledge across the board here as you start to get through. A lot of these channels are just places that I've watched that I'm recommending to you guys, and if you happen to have any other ones, just go ahead and drop them in the comments so that we can start making a good pool of knowledge down there. And I'm definitely open to finding new places to subscribe to. Now moving along, here's Grayscale Gorilla again. These guys not only offer training on the products that they sell on their store, but they also deep dive various topics in live sessions often. And it's one of my favorite things to listen to if I'm just working through the day and I want to hear somebody talk about the stuff that I'm interested in. So next we have iDesign. So EJ, really awesome instructor. Again, he's one of my favorite channels to go to. Some of these guys I will just have on, like I said a minute ago, to just listen to while I'm working because it's very interesting to see the way, or even hear the way that they're starting to break down certain bits of the software. So as a forever student, I enjoy these. Let's go ahead and move on to School of Motion. So School of Motion, amazing channel. Subscribe to these guys. A lot of different instructors, a lot of different inspiring people and workflows that come through here. So it's definitely one of those places that I can't stress enough to you guys. Now, regardless of whether you're in Cinema 4D or not, a lot of the things that they're talking about in these various platforms can kind of be moved from the fundamentals into another software that you may be using, which is why I follow so many different YouTube channels that may not even be specifically Cinema 4D related, and we'll talk about those later. So next up on the list, CG Shortcuts. Definitely worth it. I feel like I'm going to just get repetitive here when I keep talking about all the different things, because I follow a lot of these guys for the same reason. Great training, great content, and it's definitely worth checking out. Now, Arthur Whitehead is another one that I enjoy watching and listening to. We'll get to his stuff here in a little bit, but he definitely has a really nice Patreon if you guys want to go through and get access to his files. So it's definitely an option if you're wanting to go that route. But with product rendering and animation, this is a great channel to check out and follow. Sean Dove. I really like this stuff here because it's, for me, just things that I would kind of do for R&D, and it's really cool when you see guys like this who have been in the industry a while and they're starting to do things and teach you things that you may not have had to do yet. And I find that a lot in the industry that I came from, building some of these more complex scenes and different types of animation. I may do it one way, and then you find an artist that makes it so much easier and less complex than what I've made it in the past. And so it's pretty cool to see what these guys have to offer and how they break down their certain situations. So Elemensa is a really good training platform when it comes to modeling, and we'll talk about them a little bit once we get into Maya as well, but they definitely have some good Cinema 4D courses as well as Maya training. And then lastly here, we'll talk about Athanasios Pozensis, is a really awesome instructor from Maxon that we'll talk about in a moment. But I really like his training content, not just the way that he teaches, but he also deep dives quite a bit of tools and workflows, different research and development that he's done. And I think that it's really cool to listen and watch the way that he works with various techniques in the software here inside Cinema 4D. All right, so moving along now to the non-YouTube side here of Cinema 4D training. So at ProEDU, we have our 3-part CGI tutorial that we have out right now, which is where you get to hear me talk at length about Cinema 4D. It's specifically built more for Cinema 4D from a photographer's point of view, and we start to go through that process. Now, we also do offer a 6-week CGI course where you get mentorship from myself, and it's a really cool platform just to hang out with a ton of other artists and get some cool mentorship along the way. Next, we have Cineversity. So Cineversity is by Maxon. They have a really wide range of training on their site, and you can deep dive so much of it, and it's super fun. So while we were talking about Athanasios before, he also does these really cool breakdowns on Cineversity here. Make sure that I have that paused. Does these really cool breakdowns where he's going through and deep diving the different workflows and techniques that other studios have essentially allowed him the project files to, and he starts to rebuild and recreate these techniques, and it's really cool to watch. Definitely worth it. So that's Cineversity. Grayscale Gorilla, as I said before, they have their Plus membership. So if we go ahead here and we can just go to Access Plus, they have a whole lot on here in the way of training, and this is one of the places that I enjoy going the most. So if we go to Gorilla University, we can see all of the different topics that they have to offer here. Cinema 4D, Arnold, Classics, Quick Tips, Redshift, and Octane. A lot of great stuff there, a lot of great training content, various workflows, definitely worth it. I believe it's $33 a month for access to all of their training and resources. HelloLux, another great training platform. Definitely worth checking out. They have all kinds of stuff here, and it's very affordable as well. So moving along is LFO Design. So this is one that I didn't actually know about until, I would say, at the time of this video, maybe 3 years ago or so. They have a lot of great training for Cinema 4D, Redshift. They have X Particles, they have scene nodes, different things here, and it's very good in-depth training. So it's definitely worth listening to. School of Motion, if you're talking motion graphics, animation, anything of that sort, various render engines, they have a whole lot here. And the cool part is they have different instructors that are all industry pros, and you'll see a lot of these guys on YouTube. So the cool part about this is you can get to know these instructors on YouTube and then go into something like School of Motion here and really start to see how they work outside of that YouTube platform. Next is Motion Punk, and they have a lot of great training here. And what this is through is actually, if I go down to the bottom here, there we go, it's through Patreon. So you can go through and get their project files and quick tips tutorials for $15 a month. It's super easy to get in and access the minds of some of these creatives. So it's super cool, $15 a month, definitely worth it. We talked already a little bit about Arthur Whitehead when we were looking at his YouTube channel. He also has a Patreon where you get access to 100 plus project files and then the Business of 3D short series. Definitely worth checking out. Really cool guy, goes super in depth. Next, we're talking about David Ariel. I like David's work and his teaching style, and you can see him across multiple different training platforms, and you'll see him through different YouTube channels. He has a really cool Octane series and Grayscale Gorilla. Definitely worth checking out. Super talented, beautiful renders, awesome teaching style. This guy nails it. Moving along now from Cinema 4D to Blender. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the YouTube channels that I would follow for Blender. Now, again, I follow a lot of different software because there's a lot that people have to teach that can translate from one software to another. So I never discount the places that I like to go to watch training content. So as we start to move forward, keep that in mind. Blender Guru, one of the most well-known Blender instructors that is there, has a crapload of amazing training videos on Blender. I did the donut. If you did a donut, say the woot woot real quick one time. Woot woot. Anyways, a lot of good training here. Blender Guru, definitely worth checking out. CG Geek. This is another one of those channels that if we go ahead to videos here, he's got a whole lot of content, and a lot of it's very much along the line of edutainment as well. So he teaches, makes you laugh a little bit. Grant Abbott, I really like his teaching style. And I like the way that he breaks down all of his videos, and a lot of them are going into parts. So you kind of do a workshop in a sense right here on YouTube. So it's definitely worth looking into. Now, Blender HD, again, it's going to be a whole lot of videos, a whole lot of training content that you guys can go through and find a lot of value in. Blender Diploma. I think that's probably Diploma. I don't know. Same thing as the other guys. Great content, breaking down tools, different workflows. CG Cookie. I'm going to get redundant here if I keep going saying the same thing. A lot of these are amazing. Ian Hubert. I absolutely love the way that this guy teach. You can see him on various TED Talks and different stuff, all kinds of cool things. And he has a very no BS way of teaching. So the reason why I say this is because you get into what he calls lazy tutorials. And these are things that I watch, and I literally will just watch them for fun. Okay, we're not going to go into that. All the ads all the time. Don't need all that. But he has these lazy tutorials where he'll take a 1 minute segment and break down an entire workflow and process that he will be doing in Blender. I watch these a lot and kind of take mental notes because not only is it super inspiring, but he also covers things that, again, can be transferable from one software to another. Now, talking about different paid options for Blender, there's CG Fast Track. I actually like a lot about this site because they're breaking down quite a few different things. So they have a free beginner series here that you can go through if you're working in Blender. It's a little bit different than the donut, something a little bit more my style. Definitely worth checking out. And then as you get through the beginner and fundamental level training, you can start to work your way into a bit more of the intermediate to advanced stuff here at CG Fast Track. CG Boost Academy, same thing, everywhere from beginner to pro in Blender, working through different workflows and specializations. Going to CG Cookie, we talked about them on the YouTube side. They also have a whole lot on their platform that you guys can use to go through and start learning Blender, and hopefully making that process quite a bit easier. All right, so we're moving along from Blender into Maya now. This is one of those for me. I don't have quite as many for, say, Maya and 3ds Max as I do specifically for Cinema 4D because that's my software of choice. So again, if you guys have different channels that you like and you subscribe to, go ahead and leave those down in the comments. First channel up, Maya Learning Channel. Definitely a good place to go through and start learning Maya. There's a whole lot of content here. Next up is Maya Tutorials. A lot of great videos here. They are not English, but they all have subtitles. Very easy to follow along and check out. This is one that I have as subscribed to just in case I'm looking for anything specific, and I kind of know I'm just going to have to read along with them as they're doing things. We have Elemenza again. Now this is a great channel. We saw that they had some Cinema 4D training in here for modeling. They have quite a bit more for Maya. Next up is Maya Guy. So I like a lot of this stuff here. This is kind of some really cool simulation work that he's doing here. There are different tutorials on modeling various elements, but I really like the way that this channel is built around various effects and how to do different things. JL Musi is definitely one of my favorite edutainment channels to watch, even though I'm a Cinema 4D user. Used Maya a little bit in the past, but everything that he's talking about in the way of modeling is directly relatable into another software. So if you can just follow along, take his tips, tricks, and bit of advice, it's definitely worth knowing. Now we're talking about the places outside of YouTube for Maya. Again, I'm not as well versed with these, so go ahead and leave links in the comments. The Gnomon Workshop is huge for not just Maya, but other software like ZBrush. We'll kind of talk about that later. But they have an entire wealth of knowledge on this site, different workflow. They offer courses and all kinds of stuff. Definitely go check out Gnomon Workshop if you guys are looking for more in-depth professional training. All right, so next up is Maya Design Academy. So that's from Autodesk. The owners of Maya, they have a whole lot of training and content here that you guys can browse through. Now, we have the CG Master Academy as well, which is a very good way to go through and get more professional training. This is a bit seemingly to be on the workshop side where you can go through and take different avenues that you want to learn, and it's going to give you really good project-based training. Now, if we're talking about 3ds Max, there are a few different channels that I follow here. First one being Autodesk 3ds Max Learning Channel. So again, same as all the other ones, they got a lot of good content, a lot of good training that you can use here if you're into product rendering and architectural visualization. This is definitely a good series of channels for you to watch. So next channel, architectural visualization. There's a lot of goodies here and a lot of good video content that's going to walk you through the process of creating beautiful renders. Aramis 3D. They have a lot of good Blender training here. Now, if you do go to the playlists, you'll see that they have plenty of different playlists here, which includes some 3ds Max training as well. So it's definitely worth checking them out. Take a browse through their playlist, and you can go to, say, this one here, 3D Studio Max with 959 videos. Definitely worth checking out. Nuno Silva is a very nice channel here. So let's go ahead to the videos. Now, there's a lot here that's going to walk you through the process of how to do various things in 3ds Max, but now, if we're talking about 3ds Max, there are a few different channels that I follow here. First one being Autodesk 3ds Max Learning Channel. So again, same as all the other ones, they got a lot of good content, a lot of good training that you can use here if you're into product rendering and architectural visualization. There's a lot of goodies here and a lot of good video content that's going to walk you through the process of creating beautiful renders. Aramis 3D, they have a lot of good Blender training here. Now, if you do go to the playlists, you'll see that they have plenty of different playlists here, which includes some 3ds Max training as well. So it's definitely worth checking them out. Take a browse through their playlist, and you can go to, say, this one here, 3D Studio Max with 959 videos. All right, moving along to Margarita Nikita. Definitely a lot of video content here on 3ds Max and various workflows, tips, tricks, different things. Really cool way to go through and start to learn the software if you're looking to get into anything ArcViz. Redefine Effects has a lot of great visual effects tutorials here, and it's one of these areas for me that, even though, again, I'm not a 3ds Max user, it's definitely fun to get into and start to look at what other software is offering. Photobots is another good place to look if you're looking to get into modeling, all kinds of different stuff, environmental, prop modeling, things of that nature. So for the 3ds Max sources outside of YouTube, we have 3D Training, 3ds Max Academy, and we have Udemy. So again, Udemy is very much one of those general type of training platforms where you can find all different types of content. This is really a good place to go through and start to dive into the software and learn various things. Let's go ahead and talk about ZBrush. If you are either interested in or are into digital sculpting, ZBrush is the route to go for you. So ZBrush, Pixologic ZBrush, they have a lot of great training here from multiple different instructors covering a wide range of specializations that you can go into in the world of digital sculpting. Flip Normals is another great platform. This is one that I really enjoy all of the content here and the way that it works. Not as much of a ZBrush user as I once used to be. Michael Pavlovich is an amazing instructor, but also goes in very good detail into breaking down certain tools and techniques within ZBrush. Jan Sculpts, really nice channel to check out for stylized character sculpting and creation. Polygon is really good as well if you're looking for more of that stylized approach. So the last channel here is ZBrush Tuts. Again, a lot of great training, cool place to hang out. Go check these guys out as well. So as far as the off YouTube areas for training on ZBrush, if you go to pixologic.com, they have the Learn ZBrush here. You can click into there and get into their free Z Classroom training, and that's going to allow you to start accessing their beginners tutorials and starting to move on from there. Now, they do also offer, in the same location, Learn ZBrush, they have the third-party training here that's going to give you the list of the training that you can go through and purchase and learn from. That's all based off of their partners. So I very briefly want to talk about some of what I would call supporting software for other 3D applications and things that are good to use. The whole list can go on from here, but we'll save some of that for another video. So first of all is Marvelous Designer. If you're looking to get into digital fashion, designing and simulating clothes for your 3D models, things of that sort, different props, trash bags, all kinds of different stuff you can do with this software. It's beautiful and it does a really good job with animation as well. Substance Suite, so that's Substance Designer, Substance Painter, Substance Alchemist, all based around texture and material creation in a PBR workflow, as well as the ability to paint various textures onto your 3D models. Can't say enough good things about it. I'm definitely not a Substance pro, but it's there. Know that it's there. It's a good one. Embergen effects. So Embergen is really great with simulating smoke, fire, particles. If you guys are into Octane Render through Otoy, they do offer a package as well. I believe it's their studio subscription that comes with Embergen effects, and you're able to go through and use it through that platform as well. Now, RealFlow is based quite a bit more on fluid dynamics, clearly here from the video we're watching. So it's going to give you a lot of really nice, realistic water and fluid simulations. So that's it. The best CGI resources and tutorials of 2021. Now, there's a lot of stuff that we didn't cover. I could talk about this stuff for 2 weeks straight. I felt like I was already getting redundant because I can say the same good things about all of these different softwares, about all of the different training and resources. But at the end of the day, hopefully it brought a little bit of awareness that there's a lot of free stuff out there, a lot of good tools and tips that you can get as an artist. Now, as always, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the comments. Never stop learning. I'll see you guys in the next video.